Hello, and welcome back to another Sergmanx video. Today's video, we have the newly released Analogue Pocket Aluminum Edition unboxing. I got my hands on the silver version, and I personally think it looks quite nice. Now, there are other versions of the Analogue Pocket that are significantly cheaper, so I would say if you're interested in the device, go for one of those versions. I've just really liked the Analogue Pocket, so I decided to go with the aluminum version. And upon taking it out of the box, I noticed right away how heavier this Analogue Pocket is compared to previous versions of this device. And it feels quite nice. This is something I definitely don't want to drop either. I don't want to damage this thing, so I'm definitely going to be careful when I handle this Analogue Pocket. My initial impression so far of the Analogue Pocket Aluminum Edition is it feels really nice. It seems well put together. I don't see any scratches on it so far. And in comparison to my blue Analogue Pocket, I could just tell, holding it right away, it just feels cheaper. It has a cheaper feel to it. It's definitely a lot lighter than the Aluminum Edition. Not a bad device. This is still a great device to hop into if you've never owned an Analogue Pocket. Also, the Analogue Pocket Aluminum Edition does absolutely nothing different from the normal version of the Pocket, so you're not going to feel left out if you don't go for the Aluminum Edition. And just stick with the regular version. That's quite fine. If you don't own any of the Pokemon games physically, I would go with an Easy Flash Jr. While you can play Pokemon Gold, Silver, Crystal off the SD card in the system itself, you won't be able to utilize the real-time clock mechanic. With the Easy Flash Jr., you get all those features back, as there's a battery inside the cartridge, so when the day and night cycle happens in the real world, it reflects in the game perfectly, just as you remember. On the flip side, games like Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, Leaf Green, Fire Red, those games don't utilize the real-time clock feature, so you don't have to worry about the day and night cycle in those games, so you absolutely don't need to worry about that. And there are a lot of cool fan games that also utilize the real-time clock. Next, let's check out a GBA game with one of my favorites, Super Mario Advance, which is basically Super Mario Bros. 2, but I think this is the definitive version. This is based heavily off the remake on the Super Nintendo with a lot of new extra features. And as you can see, the game looks beautiful, especially with this screen. The D-pad works fine, the buttons are very responsive. Super Mario Advance is a fantastic game. The game also has a remake of Mario Bros, and Nintendo liked it so much they included it in Super Mario Advance 2, 3, and 4 as well, so have fun, I suppose. Next, I had to check out the various reproduction cartridges I have and ROM hacks, and I'm pleased to say all these work fine on the Analogue Pocket. As you can see here, I do like Pokemon ROM hacks, especially that Dragon Ball Z one. I think it's cool how you can capture various Z fighters, level them up, and whatnot. But for the purposes of testing these cartridges out, let's check out Castlevania Legends. Never played this game too much, but for a Game Boy game, it's pretty decent in my opinion. And guess what? It plays fine on the Analogue Pocket. Also, if you don't like how the game controls, you could definitely change the mapping of all the buttons to whatever you see fit, so that's pretty cool. So in order to use the Analogue Pocket to its fullest potential, I had to update the firmware, and you'll see why if you don't know what I'm talking about. Now that the system is updated, I have access to a lot of different systems. Originally when the Analogue Pocket came out, its true purpose was to only play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games. Eventually they released different adapters for Game Gear, Neo Geo Pocket. However, now the Analogue Pocket is in a much different place from when the system launched. I can play Capcom arcade games, I can play Neo Geo games. It's really cool. But for the purposes of this video, we are going to play Mega Man X on the Super Nintendo, one of my favorite games of all time. And guess what? It plays like a dream on the Analogue Pocket. The screen looks beautiful. This video doesn't do it justice. I also have a few different Mega Man ROM hacks on here that I'm definitely going to check out as well. Last but not least, I had to check out my favorite game of all time, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I was quite disappointed with how this game was represented in the Sonic Origins collection, with the change of music, especially with Ice Cap Zone, Launch Base Zone, and Carnival Night Zone. So playing the original version of Sonic 3 really makes me happy. And this game looks beautiful on the Analogue Pocket screen. It plays fine. The controls are very responsive. Sonic has never played better. So that's been my unboxing of the Analogue Pocket Aluminum Edition. Should you get this? Probably not. If you really want to dive in and get an Analogue Pocket, definitely get one of the previous versions when Analogue gets them back in stock. This is really for people who love the Analogue Pocket and want something a bit more higher quality. And as always, this has been another Sergmanx video. Have a good one and peace.
Super Retro Force.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and comment below your thoughts on today's topic. Please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that bell to be notified when the next Sergmanx video drops. Have a good one.